What is the crack, folks? Andy Collar, your host, as always, here on the Gym Advisors podcast. This is the third in a series of episodes celebrating the launch of our unique online fitness finder. If you're someone out there who wants to make a change, maybe to your body, maybe you want to improve your fitness, just gain a bit of confidence, maybe even just begin to move a bit more after a year of not doing a lot. Right now, particularly in Ireland with all these lockdowns, online coaching is the only real way. But social media, as great as it is, it can be way too noisy. You don't know what sort of help a trainer on there can offer you, if it's right for your preferences and your goals. And there's so much information, and that can lead to being paralysed with indecision. And you just you end up just not doing anything. But with the online fitness finder, you just answer a few multiple choice questions, and we'll show you a range of options so you know they offer what you're looking for. And then you can browse their profiles, get to know them a little bit as people, and then contact them directly from their profiles. So you can find the perfect online coach or instructor for you in just a few simple clicks. And it really is as easy as that. Now, I'm usually really excited to bring you these episodes, and I should be again today because today's guest is amazing. His name is Keith Grainger. He's an online coach, an all-around good dude who knows his stuff. He's brilliant and he's easy to chat to. However, I made an absolute mess of the section where we add 3 of Keith's favourite tunes to our Spotify playlist. I tried something different. I tried to play the clips live there and then rather than kind of add them in later, and boy did it backfire. I'll leave it at that. Look, enjoy watching me. You can enjoy watching me make an absolute fool of myself. Yeah, look, don't forget you can listen to this episode absolutely ad-free over on thegymadvisors.ie /podcast or directly on Keith's profile on thegymadvisors.ie /custom fitness. But look, regardless of where you're listening or watching this, it's time to roll it. Keith, how the hell are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you getting on?
I am very good, man. I was listening back to some episodes recently and I've realised I don't know how to react when someone asks me how I am. I stumble, I talk absolute nonsense. So instead of that, apart from what I've just said, let's kick straight into it and go, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Okay, so I'm an online coach. I was an in-person personal trainer up until COVID. Since that, I was doing both before COVID happened, working in the gym and training people online, clients who moved away overseas or who just got in touch from elsewhere, whatever. And then, once COVID kind of kicked off, I took all of my in-person clients and I would just see them over, video calls like WhatsApp and that kind of stuff. So I mainly use WhatsApp. And more and more then people started getting into the idea of not training in person because it just wasn't a reality anymore. So more and more people start coming on board as just purely online, So we can kind of get into later, like what's the difference between different sort of online coaching things, because it's sort of hard to define for people to get their head around, I think now, since the COVID thing. So that's me. I run a company called Custom Fitness, which the idea was to take on other coaches, which I was doing. I put off for a very, very long time, and then I just started doing just before COVID happened, and then that went out the window. So I'm just starting to do that again now. So expanding a little bit that way. Well, that's about it. That's all there is to know about me.
Very cool. Well, I'm sure there's not. We were talking before and there's a lot more, I'm sure. But in terms of the amount of people I've talked to, and honest to God, March to June of last year, they had so much plans and just COVID just absolutely came and tore the shite out of it. And that's not a surprise to anyone. It's turned the world upside down, but it's ridiculous the way it's kind of put us on pause. Whatever. Exactly. We're all going through it together. But look, come here. So I'm always interested in people's personal stories. How did you get into A, fitness in general, so working out and keeping in shape, and B, how did you then kind of go in, like when did you decide to get into the industry and how did you go about doing it?
So I didn't probably have the same story as a lot of trainers, I guess. Assuming that a lot of trainers would have gotten in from being generally sporty. I wasn't sporty at all. As a kid, I was always the one with the note to get out of PE or whatever, didn't dig that at all. I'd asthma and stuff when I was a kid. I'd always be out of breath. I was like overweight. Things were hard, So it wasn't that kind of thing. And what eventually got me into it, I always liked being active on my own terms with mates, but never exercise or like formal sport. Anyway, I suppose, long story short, I was working in film and TV, and I found that I would get injured a lot in that job. And part of it is the job, but I've spent a lot of time on physio tables as a result of that. And I would always try to just learn as much as I could about what's going on, why is this happening, what is it about what you're telling me to do that's going to fix this, and why is it going to work. So just learning as much as I could about anatomy, because I wanted to be more self-sufficient and be able to kind of fix myself up and not get injured in the first place. And after a long time, I realized like this is never going away. And I just kind of came across the right physio, I guess, for me at the time. And he just said, yeah, this is never going away. And doing as much rubber band stuff as you want is not going to fix anything. You need to just go and get strong, because I was like really, really skinny. Like there's nothing on me. And, you know, I just had very bad posture around the shoulders and stuff. And some of that was, most of that was from work. So, he sent me into the gym, gave me like a little bit of rehab to do that, kind of built into a little bit of lifting. And as soon as I started lifting, I just loved it, you know? And I think part of it was like, it's stuff that I had always seen whenever I was sort of curious, looking up stuff about anatomy and learning stuff that way, trying to learn about rehab. I'd always see, you know, other people doing amazing things like Olympic lifting and powerlifting, and that seemed to be the epitome of what I couldn't do. You know, the contrast of me sitting there barely able to like open a door because I was so jacked up in my shoulders. And yeah, that's you know, seeing a glimpse of being able to kind of do that and aspire to be like those people that I kind of looked up to was really, really cool. And yeah, just getting to feel stronger, feel more bulletproof, you know, be less injured was really good. That's all very, very Moorish, you know. And I think the big thing then was like, once I actually got into it and I started training like very, very quickly, I just started to feel a lot happier. Like my mood was great, you know. And I definitely wasn't aware that like for a long time over a period, it was gradually slipping, you know, over the years. And, you know, there was depression that would kind of come and go. But I didn't really know what it was, you know, and sort of having that stark contrast then when I went away from it, I was like, oh, this is, you know, how good things can feel, you know, this is how my mood can be, and everything improved, sleep improved, everything. So I realized, yeah, this is really, really cool. And for a long time, I'd wanted to kind of help people be happier, you know, help people with depression, especially. And I didn't really know how that was going to work. You know, I'd always be looking up stuff myself and trying to learn what I could to sort of optimize mood, you know, looking into all sorts of stuff like nutrition and whatever. And all of it was really scratching the surface. But, you know, I always would be keen to share it with friends and family and stuff. And I didn't know how I could kind of make that into a full-time kind of a mission, you know? And yeah, once I kind of got into it and got strong and realized I was kind of good at maybe helping other people do that, I thought, man, this could really be it, you know? I could help people get into exercise, you know, by encouraging them, by coaching them. And I know that has a huge kick-on effect for some, if not all people, towards, you know, better mental health, you know, feeling better. So yeah, that kind of made the decision for me to then go and train, to go and learn and study to be a personal trainer, so that I could just help people do something to make themselves happier, even if there's no particular mental health issues that someone's dealing with. Like, people are generally happier when they're working towards or achieving their goals. And that's just turns out, I suppose, after I got into it, that's a really nice, rewarding thing to be part of, you know? So you get to be around all these people who are just constantly inspirational, you know? You see someone they're always at that point in the movie where the character turns it around, you know, and instead of just like waking up at 12 and like staying in their PJs, they're out there and they're doing stuff and they're turning their life around. So you're surrounded by inspirational people all the time, and that kind of drives you on, you know? So it's a really nice thing that you get to be part of those people's lives at that kind of time, you know, and that just becomes the only reality, you know. Do you know what I mean? So it's, in a weird way, I'm kind of getting coached by the clients, and it couldn't sound cheesier, but that was my kind of realization at first, you know. So yeah.
That's a really cool realization. And look, cheese on this podcast. Cheese and swearing is a big combination on this podcast, so don't worry about it. You're
cool,
fine.
I get into swearing.
But yeah, in terms of, you talked about where you came from in terms of your own mental health, and that's what and people who listen to this podcast will know this, what I constantly bang on about. It is my story is, in terms of the gym advisors, but more so just in terms of my own mental health and my own fitness, was literally getting to a point where I needed to make a change, and it was either going and kind of seeking therapy and whatever else, or it was doing something a little bit simpler and less drastic, and that was just getting fit. And I had tried that on my own plenty of times, but that lack of guidance, I was going in exact same as you. I was ending up injured. I was just doing absolute nonsense, spending hours on the treadmill, just stuff that did not. Look, some like people have a bad view of cardio and probably should do in some instances, but some people like doing it, and that's what's good for their own mental health. But for me, it just didn't work. It wasn't what I enjoyed. It didn't give me the results. And then having that coach that I went and found him, and he just, again, sounds cheesy, sounds melodramatic. He turned my life around, man, and it's kind of there wouldn't be a Gym Advisors, but who knows where I would be as well. Like, so it's a privilege to be a personal trainer, and it sounds like from what you're talking about, it's something that you don't take for granted, and you're delighted to be doing what you're doing, which is unbelievable place to be in life. Like,
yeah, it's really cool. Definitely very lucky, you know. Feel thankful for it like all the time. I mean, it's great that what you've done there, man. You've kind of turned your life around, you know, and that's sounds like such a really big thing. It is a big thing, you know, and I don't know if someone hasn't experienced that, if they haven't done it for themselves, whatever. It might sound a bit hyperbolic, but it's not. It's a dramatic thing to happen, and it's a great thing to happen, and it is a big deal, you know. But it's not as unbelievable, I suppose. It's not as dramatic in that way. It's not unbelievable as people as people might think, you know.
You would see it all the time, which is absolutely. As I said, it's an incredible place to be in your life, but. Doing what you do in terms of you're an online coach, we are launching this online fitness section. By the time you listen to this, by the time you see it, we will have launched it. What is your, and the start? I like to start at the start. What is your definition of online coaching and being an online coach?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked this because it's something that I kind of struggled with once COVID came in, right? So online coaching was always, I think that was hard to define. You'd say online coaching to people pre-COVID, and they'd be like, you know, they just picture some Jane Fonda workout, you know what I mean? Be like in front of a TV screen. But what it was then was really like what I now call correspondence coaching. And I'm still looking for terms to try and describe this better. So if there's a comment section anywhere where this is going to post it up, like people want to give me better ideas, great. But correspondence coaching or remote coaching. So it's like where you would be given the program to do, you'd be explained to you how to do it. There'd be, you know, video links to tutorials or whatever. You'd be given the nutrition to follow. You'd be given information on how to follow that, you know. We'd have a certain amount of chats, you know, to set that up. And then you're kind of, you know, you're able to run that by yourself, you know. So you're able to do the workouts in your own time. You're not stuck to someone's schedule. And obviously it's a lot less expensive when you're not booking someone by the hour, etc. And then you're checking in all the time as you know, every week or more often every week at a minimum, you know. So that's what it was. And then in person was in person. And then when COVID came along, it was like all of those people who were in person are now kind of doing video call training, you know, and that has become kind of called online training, but it's still sort of in-person training, you know. So I would say online training is really the kind of remote style where you're doing this on your own, but under the coaching and guidance of a coach, right? So someone is supporting you with a program and changes to that program as they're needed, which is the most important thing. You know, you need to be able to roll with the punches. And if you don't know how to program, you're kind of stuck. Something goes wrong, your schedule changes. So that's kind of online training as I see it. And then you have personal training, which is just right now, temporarily, or for a lot of people, maybe forever, you know, happening remotely over video calls. So that is possibly more confusing than
what I'm interested but what I'm interested in there, obviously it's all kind of having that accountability, having that someone you can bounce ideas off, and having that someone who will help you. But in terms of I've seen you posted on social media of a client of yours doing a session, and you're there in the background, so people can actually, it's something that is it's a million miles away from where we would have thought of this time last year, but you're actually able to be there and give informed correction and help along the way while they're actually doing their workout, which is incredible and helps all levels of fitness. So that is one of your services that you provide, like.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's when the COVID thing happened, all the one-to-one clients went that way, you know, training over FaceTime. And I think, you know, it was maybe we had a few weeks or something where things were closed, and then they opened back up again. And nobody wanted to go back. Even people who weren't really that concerned about the COVID thing, because back then we didn't even really know how big a deal it was. A lot of people were like, "Hey, it's just a flu." You know what I mean? Like,
they're still out there.
People willing to get back, and yeah, I suppose less, but yeah, man, like nobody wanted to go back to the gyms. None of the clients and people who were quite kind of reticent to try out the video thing, like, yeah, let's just see how it goes. Nobody wanted to go back because it's just technology. We're lucky that COVID happened when it happened. I don't know, even a few years ago, maybe like video calling was. I don't remember it being this good. I didn't use it that much, but it's just seamless in terms of like connection speeds is quite easy now. And yeah, so you can do form correction, you can see everything perfectly. That's one of the concerns that people have when they're like, do I need a really good camera or do I need a good computer? I was like, no, just do your phone. Do you know what I mean? Just lob it in the corner of the room on the floor and it'll be grand. I'll see everything, So yeah, we're quite lucky in a weird way.
Yeah.
When COVID happens. But
that's an interesting thing. But like the way you talk there about there's definitely been a shift in terms of our attitudes towards online coaching. And I know this time last year as well, or 13 months ago at this stage, you were online or doing remote coaching and doing in-person PT. What sort of differences have you seen in terms of attitudes, whether it's within your clients, whether it's within the industry as a whole? How much differently do we view online coaching than we did 13, 14 months ago?
Yeah, I think it's quite different. Like, it used to be that people would ring me up, come in for a consultation, whatever, and they might be a really good candidate for online coaching, and you'd say to them, "Hey, look, you could save yourself a lot of time messing around, scheduling stuff, trying to fit into my schedule, and save yourself a lot of money. Do this online thing, and of course, if you can save time and money, if you can make things easier, then it's more sustainable, right? And that's what you want to start with." But people were very reluctant to take up that idea because they hadn't heard of it. They're like, what, so people would generally start and then they might maybe transition later on when they'd see they can do it by themselves. But now people get in touch and they expect there to be no in-person option, so they expect it to be maybe, I suppose, Zoom classes is what people are most familiar with or something like that. So it's totally changed the idea that people have towards online training, that it's their first assumption now nearly, and they don't see it as a problem or as a kind of a plan B. I think most people see it as a better option than in-person training. I think at first, there's people asking questions like, is it cheaper because you're not there, that kind of stuff. And now, like, there's people don't ask that. People know it's like, well, this is actually, it's just as good, but also preferable for the client because there's no travel time, etc. People have kids, they're busy, So I think, yeah, that's just changed a huge amount. Where I know obviously lots of people are going to want to go back to the gym as soon as they're open because there's a social element, there's different stuff, But for people training with a trainer, I don't know if that impacts them that much because you're going in, you're dealing with that one person, and it's going to be the same, when it opens up. You're going to be going back dealing with that one person. So I don't think a lot of people who wouldn't have considered training not in a gym, I don't think a lot of those people are going to go back to a gym or be in any rush. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and maybe like there's a lot of people who are trained, maybe once, twice, 3 times a week, whatever it is, and they'd have other sessions programmed for them in between to hit themselves. That kind of thing. People might go in, have a little bit of company, and create a little bit of crack with it as well, like given the option. But yeah, mostly from the people I know, from the people I'm coaching, the attitude's totally changed. People are like, this is great. This is the way I want to do it, kind of forever. With a few small things. But again, at the start, I'm sorry I'm going on here, but like at the start of the lockdown and people starting to train at home, I think one of the big concerns that people had, misconceptions, was that you're going to need to like buy loads of gear and have loads of gear, and no, not really. Like, I mean, a few small bits for sure, are great, but you can do an awful lot with your body weight as well, and that's kind of how I train mostly myself. So yeah, that's I think the big change.
It's massive, and there's definitely going to, like, thinking of my own limited vision of growth in the industry. I always thought the next big thing was going to be like going from 1-to-1 and just every 1-to-1 personal training going to be small group personal training. That was my big vision, because I thought there was massive benefits to small groups, and all of a sudden, small group personal training is like about 400 years ago. It feels like we're going a different way. It's like I said, like there's going to be very few coaches who are solely in person from after all this happens. And I think it's going to change how the industry works, and we can only try and form it in as best a way as we can. You mentioned there about kind of body work and keeping things simple. If there's any kind of beginners out there, would you have any advice for them in terms of how to get started, without, like you said, the massive expense or whatever it would be out there?
Yeah, to get started, man. Okay, yeah, I would definitely just say start with body weight. Like a lot of people think of body weight exercise as that's not going to be hard enough. Anyone could do that, whatever. But then actually try to do it. It's different. Like it's quite different, and there's just almost infinite scalability within bodyweight exercise. There's some stuff obviously it's not great for. Like if you want to train to be a powerlifter, it's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? You're just not going to get max strength that way. But if you want to get in shape, if you want to get a bit stronger, you want to grow some muscle, you want to lose some weight, all that stuff, totally fine. So yeah, I think that's something that people are coming around to a lot as well. Especially as people try it, people very quickly realize this can be as difficult as I want it to be, or as easy. Yeah, body weight would be plenty. That's where I'd say for people to start. I think if you're going to invest money in something, and invest time in something, like look at getting a coach as opposed to getting gear, because that's sort of like the BS filter as it was described to me when I was studying. The part of the coach's job is to be the BS filter. And if you go out looking at like what should I buy or what exercise should I do, forget it. Like you're just going around in circles on Google forever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And everyone's got contradicting information. But the truth is, because probably all of them are right, but depending on the context, depending on who you are and what you're trying to achieve. So
that's so like we've obviously we launched this online thing, but we talked to our members and we asked them a few different questions in terms of what online coaching is and just PTing and all that sort of stuff. And that is exactly the biggest thing that there is there's so much shit out there, and a lot of it's true, a lot of it's false, but that context of going, how do I apply that to the person in front of me is the job of the coach, and is the reason that people who have coaches invariably get results, and people who don't have them, or people who have good coaches invariably get results, and people who don't have a coach or have a bad coach are the ones who are kind of swimming in the deep end without any life vest or whatever. They're in trouble. That was meant to be a up shit creek without a paddle reference without the swearing, but I just said it anyway. So yeah, I would definitely recommend obviously getting a coach as well, because there are like you're going to end up, I think we talked about this before, if you don't have that guidance, you're going to end up program hopping, you're going to end up plan hopping, all this sort of stuff, and you just never make that progress.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because that program hopping thing, it's totally understandable why people do that. Like, so like training and dieting to an extent is like a faith-based practice, because it's slow progress, and it's you can't really see the changes like watching the grass grow, right? So you have to kind of take a photo, walk away, and do another photo later, or look at your metrics kind of far apart. So in the meantime, you have to kind of have faith, and if you're working off faith, like, and you have any doubt that it's going to work, it's really, really hard to stick to something. It's hard to put in hard work when you think like, well, this might be for nothing. I might just be doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? And then the big one is like, well, what if I'm actually just doing damage or something, which is like, I think a misconception we can get into later on. But if you're relying on faith, it's going to be very hard to motivate. If you're not motivated, like even if you're doing it, but you're less motivated and you're less sure of yourself, you're never going to be giving it 100%. Do you know what I mean? And those last few percent sometimes can be, that's what counts. So yeah, that program hopping, you can see what happens, but there's also a time and a place for program hopping. Like if your life circumstances change, your schedule changes, stuff like your sleep, your overall stress levels in life, that kind of changes. You may have to adapt your program, and then it's a case of like, well, how do you do that if you don't know the nuts and bolts of why this program is working, to achieve what it's trying to achieve? And that's where having a coach is great, where you can just outsource all of that stuff and be like, I don't know why this works, so I can't really take it apart and put it back together again. So yeah, a simple example is if you're just running out of time, let's say you just got to work longer hours for whatever, you just got a project on at work. You might think, yeah, well, I'll just slim down this program and do less, That's a pretty simple change, but like you want to kind of know what to cut out, and what not to cut out. What's the real bang for buck stuff? You also want to know like how little you can get away with doing, and that's something that like, just to like talk about myself again, like you're
a guest on your podcast. Your job is to talk about yourself. You're grand.
Yeah, it's just weird. But there's like I have a lot of clients who work in film, TV, right? Either they're actors or they're crew or whatever, and that lifestyle is like it's circus lifestyle. So you might be on a gig and it's, man, like it could be 12 hours a day, it could be 16, it could be more. Do you know what I mean? It depends on what you're doing. Long hours plus travel, where almost nothing else is happening. Do you know what I mean? For the duration of that thing, that could be a couple of weeks or it could be 6 months. And then you're off for like an indefinite amount of time. And you've no idea. Do you know what I mean? You got all this time off, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna throw myself in. And what you see with a lot of these people is they'll throw themselves into something and maybe start getting some really good results, but quickly get injured or quickly just lose motivation because it's not sustainable to just do that all the time. And so something or other will bring it to an end. And if it doesn't, they're looking to get great results, and then they'll go back into just complete mad errors, and then everything goes out the window, and then they lose all their progress. And that's very, very demotivating, So then coming off, it's a little bit harder to start again, this kind of cycle starting and stopping. So if kind of, well, how much can I pull out? How little can I get away with doing here and still keep my gains or still keep my physique or whatever, then it's great. And most people, everyone is really surprised by kind of how little you can get away with doing. I don't try and sell the idea that like you can do very little and get amazing, but you can keep the progress you've made on, relatively a small amount of training compared to what you're used to, and so just knowing what to pull out. Exactly,
having that knowledge and having the guidance that's there, that you can do a little, but if it's of the right stuff, if it's of the wrong stuff, you're throwing it. You might as well be throwing it out the window and doing nothing.
Yeah.
But having the coach there to guide you in terms of what you can pull out and what you can get away with over that kind of busy time or whatever, when your time is restricted. So really interesting stuff you talked about there in terms of the time management and finding the time and kind of pulling stuff out that you need to. So considering the way humans are, like for some reason we always talk about motivation and we talk about wanting to do the exercise and how do I keep up my motivation. Someone is they've got their coach, they're plowing ahead, they're making good gains, they're having a bad day, or else they've kind of seen a bit of a plateau. How do you kind of either reinstill or keep that motivation, in air quotes, going for one of your clients, or what advice would you have about that for anyone who's listening?
So it's kind of this is a tricky one, right? So like staying motivated is brilliant, and there's ways to do it. Okay, so the first few things I suppose to mention is if you're doing something you enjoy, then it's great. It's going to be easier to stay motivated. So everyone knows that, okay? But I suppose another way of thinking about that is like purposely enjoying what you're doing as opposed to choosing something you enjoy. Do you know what I mean? There might be elements you don't enjoy, but lean into it, Look at kind of gratitude practices. Look at, there's lots of meditations and audio guided stuff you can get out there. Just read up on gratitude. I think it's a really important thing, and it's a big part of when you're working on something hard, like a project like fitness or weight loss or weight gain or whatever. So part of being motivated is sort of choosing to be motivated as well. Not something that automatically motivates you. That's great. Start with that. Start with something that inspires you, Like, hey, look, you're looking at CrossFit or you're looking at bodyweight stuff, you're looking at powerlifting stuff, and you're mad into that and something about it excites you. Definitely go towards that, But there's going to be times then when it's not really motivating you. Do you know what I mean? Just lean into that. Just remember why you started. Cliche. But just lean back into gratitude and go, this sucks, I've got to do push-ups, whatever it is. But like, yeah, well, guess what? I got 2 arms and 2 legs. Do you know what I mean? I've got something to be grateful for here as well. If you look at it in a different way, you probably know someone who isn't fit enough to do that or isn't healthy enough to do that. They may have medical issues, whatever, maybe mental health problems where they just can't bring themselves right now. So just, I'm really banging on about this, but just, be grateful for the opportunity, and that can kind of offset some of that lack of motivation. The other thing is, and I've been banging on about this on Instagram a fair bit lately, is that like motivation is great, but discipline is better. So part of the same thing, like try and be motivated, but when you can't, because I love working out. I'm a freak for working out. Like I probably more into it than anyone I know. Do you know what I mean? Like I train a lot and I really enjoy it. But there's definitely days, or weeks where I'm just like, I can't be dealing with this. I've got other stuff to do. I've got things on my mind. I'm busy, whatever it is, or you might be coming towards the end of a program. It's getting a bit samey. You're eking out some gains. But those are times where there's just going to be times where you're not going to be motivated. And that's where discipline comes in, And I think the mistake that some people make is they say, okay, well, I'm not motivated by this anymore, not motivated to do this anymore, so I need to do something else. And that's almost like you get into program hopping or, hopping between different modalities of exercise. And that's where you're going to end up chasing your tail. You're much better off at that point just applying some discipline, So that sounds like that's easier said than done, I suppose. But if you can just do it a little bit, it'll have a kind of a snowballing effect, and do a bit with your exercise, with your training, with your diet, with your sleep times, whatever, and it will snowball. It will build up through your life if you can just kind of practice the skill of discipline. It's a great thing to do. So I think that's a big part of staying motivated, is just kind of riding those lack of motivation storms, on discipline until you get back into like, okay, I'm loving this,
And the one thing when you talk about discipline there, it's really interesting, and it's kind of, I suppose it's something that maybe we should have touched on earlier. But like, is there a value in there? It obviously is a value, but what is the value in kind of having a schedule where it's like at this time on this day I am doing X, Y, or Z or whatever? So having that schedule of exercise, this is when I do it. What is that value, and how does it kind of improve your chances of success, whatever your goal is in fitness?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant to do that. Like, if you can't do it, great, get whatever you can done, whatever way you can. But if you can do it, it's like you'd be mad not to. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit like entering a cheat code into a video game. It's like everything's just going to be that bit easier, So you might as well just stack the cards in your favor. I think that's the same with any kind of habit as well. Think of the habits, the things that you do throughout the day that aren't particularly fun, you'd never just do on a whim, like brushing your teeth. Like, I fancy go brush my teeth now. No one thinks that, but you do it automatically when you wake up or before you go to bed or whatever, things that are just like any kind of habit like that. It's good to just put it on automatic as much as possible, because if you're deciding, especially when you get back into those things we're talking about, when you have moments, weeks or whatever, where you're not feeling motivated, if you have an option in your head to back out, even if it's just like, well, look, my workout could be now or it could be later in the day, either or it could be today or it could be tomorrow, either or, and I'll still get my workload done in the week. Yeah, but like now you're having a conversation in your head and that's tiring. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem that big a deal, but that adds up over time. You're having essentially an argument, a negotiation in your head, and that'll wear you down. Do you know what I mean? Like it's much easier just to rip off the plaster and just get it done, So having a time where there's just no discussion, it's easier. There's less mental fatigue, and you're going to get the same amount done in the week for sure. Like if you don't miss anything by pushing it till tomorrow, great. But you will have spent a lot more mental energy to get there, and that's kind of a finite resource. It's going to be you're doing stuff in a less sustainable way at that point, Yeah,
and that's assuming you have your negotiations and you come out and you get everything achieved anyway. The likelihood of you having the conversation in your head and going, "Oh, I'll do that later," and then you're like, it's 10 o'clock at night and you're going, "Shite, I didn't do that later," and now I'm behind, and now it all, as you mentioned, snowballing earlier on in terms of positive, it can snowball negatively as well,
Yeah, totally.
So I want to not sort of finish up, but I want to talk to you about a misconception, and you talked about it earlier on actually, was the idea of form and getting injured. You seem to have an opinion of like doing something is always good. You're smiling? What's going on? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think so. So form and stuff is very important, right? It is like there's no big but coming here. Form is important, right? So do the stuff properly. But I think a big misconception that people have, and I'm smiling because I know this is so contrary to what people think. a big misconception that I hear from people a lot is that they think if they do an exercise wrong, they're going to get hurt. And straight away, I want to say, like, yes, that's possible. Like, you can hurt yourself by doing something wrong. You can hurt yourself by, not doing something wrong or not doing anything at all. Do you know what I mean? You can hurt yourself picking up a box of eggs, or as Brett Contreras said, like, you think lifting weights is dangerous. Try being weak. Being weak is really dangerous,
Yeah.
So I think what's important to remember, especially like if you look at beginners, if you're starting off, you're not that strong. Do you know what I mean? You're looking to build strength. Even if you're looking to like lose some weight or tone up or whatever it is, getting stronger is going to be a part of that. So right now, you're probably not strong enough to lift something heavy enough to hurt yourself with. Do you know? Now, this isn't a black and white thing, because you can always hurt yourself doing anything, right? I'm not saying just like hockey into it, it'll be grand no matter what. Like, no. But I want to say that, like, it's way less of a thing. It's way less prevalent than people think. People think, like, if I'm doing a push-up and my elbow goes here instead of there, my shoulder's going to come off, or I'm going to be, out of action for 2 weeks or whatever. And they think that, big dangerous things are going to happen. And that's a big misconception. That's not the case. You may be working harder than you need to. You may be losing some efficacy of the movement. You may be leading yourself to something that, like, if you keep doing that over and over and over again, under much load over a long time, you may hurt yourself. Those situations are way more frequent than, like, oh, my finger was here instead of here, and now I can't walk. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but, like, I think people have been made to be, I don't know how, but people have been made to be afraid of exercise, that they're going to hurt themselves, that they don't know exactly. And there's a science to it, there's a right way and a wrong way, but it's not that narrow a target. It really isn't, especially not for beginners getting in and just getting some stuff done, Yeah. And
again, look, it feeds into the business. The reason we're creating a podcast is that you have a coach. The worst thing you can do is have that kind of mentality of being completely scared and then doing nothing about it. So obviously there's loads of ways you can fix it. You can go and teach yourself, or even more easily, go and get yourself a coach who will fix those little intricacies that will get you, not A, keep you safe, but B, help you get the most out of your time that you're working out. So there's no hassle there. Want to finish up now? This is the one I want to finish up, but I was getting ahead of myself there, because we're putting together a playlist. Even we've already put together a podcast, putting together a playlist with tunes from all of our members that we get on here. So I want to get you to give us your 3 tunes that you've selected, Keith. Just give me a second in between each one, because we've got something to play here as well. So give me your first one. What's your one that's always on your rotation when you're working out or training?
Okay, so the band Chromeo, pretty much anything by them, but like one of their classic tunes is Fancy Footwork. Alright, that's not it, but that's a good one.
No! You're taking the piss.
No, but that's a great tune, and that's in my list too.
No, well, let's fuck that right off. But here, we'll carry on. I'll put it in at the end, folks. Don't worry about it. Give me your second one there, Keith. If I've got the 3 of these wrong, I'm in trouble.
Oh, let's see. I was going to just name that one that you just played, but no, instead let's do... I suppose now you know which one it is. What was the other one I was going to say? I can only think of that tune now that I just heard. So that's Incredible by MB featuring General Levy.
Oh, I've mixed them up. That's the only problem. Okay, so there we are. So that's Incredible by MB. Okay, so that's one of them as well. So sorry about that. Okay, go on. Let's move on then.
Okay, so Mr. Oolala, brilliant. Got a track called Let's Go. That's a good place to start.
Well, let's see if I got it right first of all before we give it any praise.
I hope you didn't.
You think it's all for show, but this is
Is that it? No!
This has made this a lot more fun. It was already going to be good crack.
My heart is absolutely breaking here, Keith. Jesus Christ. Go on, give us your third one then as well.
So that was the 3, but so that last one there was Fancy Footwork by Chromeo.
That one was Fancy
the first
Footwork.
I mentioned, yeah.
Okay, look, let's start here again. I'm not going to edit this out because look, I deserve every bit of abuse I get for this. Keith, start again. Give me your first one.
Okay, first one, Fancy Footwork by Chromeo.
You think it's all for show, but this is just the only way I know. But if you let her see that fancy footwork.
Second one.
Let's Go by Mr. Oolala.
And third one.
Third one is Incredible by M-Beat featuring General Levy.
Perfect. And I can only apologise for the absolute mess I've made of that segment. But look, it's the first time.
It's much better.
The first one we've done like that, so I am going to take all the blame. I'm not going to take it out of the edit, and we'll see how we get on. Keith, man, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You can be contacted, obviously. You can find them when you go searching for an online coach on the Gym Advisors. But if you want to go directly to Keith's profile, you can go to thegymadvisors.ie/custom fitness. And Keith, you're also on social media and stuff if you want to point people in that direction.
Yeah, social media, Instagram mainly. So at customfitness.ie is the handle there. And then there's the website, www.customfitness.ie. So either of those, one will take you to the other anyway.
Nice one. And Keith, you're also an affiliate on the Gym Advisor store. Always like testing our members. Do you remember your code?
I'm guessing it's something like Custom Fitness or something. No, I have no idea.
You were nearly there. Custom Fitness 10.
Custom Fitness 10, okay.
Gets you 10% off any order on the Gym Advisor store. Keith, man, that was an absolute shambles of a finish, but I can only apologise, and it was great crack. So thanks very much for your time, dude.
That's all right, man. Yeah, thank you, dude. Great chat.
To the rest of you, though, as always, hasta la fitness, baby.